Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, and today, while my Prelude languishes in purgatory, awaiting new panel clips for the fender liners, we are going to talk about my 1973 Ford Maverick. Now, this car, I have had it for probably 3 years now. I bought it off of a friend of mine. It used to be his grandmother's car. His grandma passed away, and he obtained the car through the family. And it sat at his house for a while, and he contacted me one day just saying, we want to take a look at this car. Now, I didn't really like Ford Mavericks at the time. I wasn't really excited about it. And the car did not look good in the pictures at all. So I rolled up just expecting to hang out with a friend for a little bit and say, hey, thanks, but you're going to have to find someone else to buy this car. But obviously I didn't do that, and we are going to talk about why. And we're also going to talk about some of the things that have happened while it sat over the years, some of the things that need to be worked on in order to have this car truly roadworthy. You can see why I'm very glad I did not shine on this offer. This car it's Meadow Lark Yellow. I do have the original wheels with the original hubcaps. The hubcaps are in this pile back here. They're really skinny, and they might fit over the disc brakes that I put on, but I'm not sure. I haven't tried. But I have a set of Willwood disc brakes on the front. I still have drum brakes on the rear, but I'm planning to upgrade that to disc brakes once I get a whole new rear end for this car. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. Now on the side here, we have the factory window stickers from the dealership lot in 1973. This is amazing to me. And the factory pinstriping and emblem. I mean, this car was really, really well kept, aside from sitting for a couple of decades. It sat in a carport, so the paint didn't really fade very much. It's a little bit more worn on the back because the carport, much like my garage right now, was exposed to the sun in the afternoon. So you see a little bit of paint wear in the back, a little bit of rust under the bumper. And then under the car, there's very little rust. No rust on the body. A little bit of surface rust there, actually. And the other side. So I learned a lot about this car after I obtained it, and one of the things I learned was that the Maverick was insanely successful. And I'm sure a lot of old guys will tell me that. In fact, I have heard a lot of old guys tell me that. The reason that the Maverick was killed off was because it was actually competing with the Mustang. I don't know if you've heard of that car or not. But they didn't want to overshadow the Mustang, so they discontinued it. Now, I have the really big front bumper because it's a 73. I think they went to a bigger bumper in 73. I call it the tool tray because it really does work as a tool tray when I'm in the engine compartment. But I believe it's the 72 front bumper is really the best looking one that has it nice and close to the body. This one's got these big battering rams on it, which I guess is also kind of cool. But no emblem in the grille. I would really love to have the badge in the grille. I think that'd be really nice. Now when I was looking at buying this car, the very first thing I noticed was, first of all, it is a manual. It's a 3-speed on the tree manual, which was not what I was expecting. I was honestly hoping for a floor shifter, but it is a manual. And the interior is really just a time capsule, with the exception of the door handles. The handles here are torn. That is a common problem. I have to get that fixed someday because the rest of the interior is immaculate. Very well kept. Barely used, in fact. Headliner, perfect. absolutely perfect. Bucket seats, nice, clean, Spartan interior. And then look at the mileage on this thing. 54,000. I think I've put 2,000 miles on this in 3 years, maybe. The original radio. I added that tack. We'll talk about that in just a minute. There's a few cobwebs in the back that I gotta get rid of. This car's really been sitting in my yard and driveway awaiting this garage of mine. Yeah, I'll just leave it like that for now. Let's open the trunk. Let's open the trunk. Here, I barely ever open the trunk, so I haven't seen it in a long time. But there's almost basically no rust. There's a little bit of rust here. This might be an issue right here. Actually, this isn't even rust. This is just the coating on the inside. There's a little bit of rust there. Yeah, very little rust. Just a little bit of surface rust that I can take care of pretty easily. I think this is the original spare tire. The club, which this car came with a club, and it's right here. I bought this car with a club. I don't use it because the club is worthless. And a little bit more things to eventually take care of, but it's not going to get any worse. I don't drive this in the rain. It never sees the rain. When I was storing it outside, I was storing it under 2 car covers and a tarp. The weather stripping's a little worse for wear. And it's got some documentation on the inside of the trunk lid. For some reason, the trunk doesn't want to close. This is another reason why I usually don't open the trunk. There we go. You have to really mean it. Now let's take a look under the hood. Ah! As you can see, I got an original 302. This is why I bought this car. I rolled up to my friend's house, and as I mentioned, the first thing I noticed was the interior, manual transmission, you know, mostly a decent car. And then I opened the hood and I saw this, and I said to my friend, how much do you want for it? And I'm not even going to tell you how much he wanted for this car. Let's just say, all I'm going to say is that I offered him more than he asked me for this car. The reason is because when he told me his price, I said, I am stealing it from you at this price. You could easily get 8 times as much money as he wants for this car. And his response to me was, I just want to give it to someone who's going to appreciate it and take care of it, not ruin it. And I said, well, it depends on your definition of ruin, but I will certainly appreciate it. I will certainly take care of it. And I'm going to keep it on the road. And with this original V8, I didn't own a V8. This is my first V8, so I was thrilled to get it, especially at that price. So we got this thing home, and I have my uncle who lives around the corner helped me get it started. It basically fired right up, more or less. It's got some problems. We're going to go over those problems. They're probably as a result from sitting for so long. There is also an issue with the flywheel. But let's take a closer look. So I have done some work to this. This is obviously not the original distributor. I swapped that out. I also put in a Holley carburetor there, and also an Edelbrock Performer intake manifold. I painted it blue to keep it looking stock. It's my whole MO with this car is I wanted everything to look tasteful. Can't really do anything about the ugly ass red distributor, but oh well. I would kind of prefer if it were in black, but I couldn't find it in black. The same with the battery. The same with the battery. I did replace that. That's new also. That's a heavy duty solenoid. I also upgraded the alternator. I didn't really need to, but the old alternator stopped working. So when I got a new alternator, I wanted to upgrade, and I also wanted something in black to keep it understated. The suspension is, I believe they're KYB shocks. And I got some springs. I forget what brand the springs are. But they don't lower it very much. I did not want to lower it very much, but it brings it down just a hair. Like maybe an inch. What else did I do to this car? Not much under the hood. Cleaned up some wires. I wired up a new tach. I have a new fuel pump, which we'll take a look at underneath. Underneath the car, you can see I've done a few more things. Mostly suspension. There we go. I got Willwood brake calipers, steel braided lines, some new control arms with new bushings, sway bar end links. I didn't do the actual sway bar, just the links because the bushings were fried. I do have some oil leaks, as you would expect from a car that's been sitting for so long, especially a 50-year-old car. Some oil leaks that I intend to fix. Oil pan gasket, looks like the oil itself, the oil filler itself. Power steering has a minor leak. I gotta get this car up in the air and just go through it. One thing that I do have to do sooner than later, it's probably the next thing I'm going to do. This is the fuel pump. I think I have a leak in the fuel pump, probably from that spring clamp, because I was pulling this car into the garage and I noticed so there was some fuel on the ground, and I think that's where it's coming from. I think once it gets pressurized, if I get on the throttle, it under load, it kind of squirts out the sides of it. That might explain the lean backfire, the lean intake spitting that I get when I smash on the gas while I'm driving. And the power steering rack leaks. Power steering on this car is just it's 70s power steering. So you just breathe on the thing and it turns. I don't like it. There's not enough road feel. Single exhaust or dual exhaust that feeds into single. I'm going to be fixing that problem eventually too. But otherwise, the body of the car is in great shape. One of the problems I had with this car is that when I would go to start it up, it would make this horrible grinding noise. At first, I thought the starter was going bad, so I went to replace the starter, and I swapped in another Motorcraft, kind of Ford basic starter, nothing fancy. And I'm really glad I did that because it still grinds, like badly. And so I took that starter off and I discovered that the flywheel's really chewed up. That really kind of sucks. This car's only got 54,000 miles on it. I probably have another 20,000 left on this clutch, and I really don't want to pull the transmission, but it seems like I'm going to have to. Well, that got me thinking, if I have to pull the transmission to replace the flywheel, why would I want to put a 3-speed transmission back in this car? Why would I do that? You take it out, and that thing better stay up. So if I'm going to get another transmission, I should get a 5-speed floor shifter, Tremec T5. And if I'm going to do that, I should upgrade the rear end. The rear end's got a 279 gear ratio, which is terrible. This car does not perform the way it should. It's too slow. It has no guts. It's boring. My Honda, my Prelude, can wipe the floor with this car. What am I doing with 8 cylinders and 300cc displacement. I got a 5.0 that can't go a quarter mile in under 20 seconds. That's ridiculous. So when I do pull this, it's going to get the transmission and rear end and drive shaft that it deserves, and I'll probably also upgrade the headers. So let's give this a start. It still sounds good if it starts. So to start the car, clutch in obviously, and I like to be in neutral. We have to park it in reverse with this transmission. Started first try. The choking when I stomp on the gas, well, really, the car is cold, so I shouldn't really be doing that anyway. It does get better as the car warms up, but I still have an issue with timing and fueling, and I really think it could have to do with a potential fuel leak. Oh yeah, that's it right there. Right there. Dripping right onto my hand. So I'm going to take care of that and hopefully solve a lot of my problems.